I can't believe what my life has become. My husband of 5 years is parading around town with some 26-year-old physical therapist while I'm being painted as the villain for trying to save our marriage. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, but they don't understand what really happened or how he manipulated this entire situation to make himself look like the victim. I'm Megan, 33, and 2 years ago, my husband Brian had an accident that changed everything. He broke his neck in 3 places, a freak accident at the gym when someone dropped a barbell. It was terrifying. I spent days at the hospital, weeks helping him adjust to life in that horrible halo brace, months being his nurse, his caretaker, his everything. The call came at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember because I was in a meeting with my biggest client about to close a deal I'd worked on for months. "Mrs. Patterson, your husband's been in an accident." Everything stopped. I left that meeting, left the deal unsigned, left my entire career trajectory in that conference room. Because that's what wives do. The first time I saw him in the hospital, tubes everywhere, that medieval-looking halo brace drilled into his skull, I threw up in the bathroom. Not because I was disgusted, but because I was terrified. The doctor said words like paralysis and permanent damage and lucky to be alive. I held Brian's hand and promised we'd get through it together. People don't understand what it's like to watch the man you love become a completely different person. The Brian I married was adventurous, spontaneous, passionate. We used to make love every morning before work, spend weekends hiking, traveling, living life to the fullest. We had plans. Kids by 35, a house in the suburbs, maybe a vacation home by the lake. That man disappeared the day of his accident. For 5 months, I was patient. I understood he was in pain, that recovery takes time. I did everything for him. Bathed him, fed him when his neck brace made it difficult, drove him to every appointment, rearranged my entire life around his needs. I even took unpaid leave from work to care for him full-time. Do you know what it's like to help a grown man use the bathroom, to see the humiliation in his eyes as you clean him? I did it without complaint, with a smile, because that's what love is. I slept on a cot next to his bed because he couldn't turn his head to see me on my side. I learned to decode his grunts of pain, to anticipate his needs before he asked. I became an expert in medication schedules, physical therapy exercises, the exact angle his pillows needed to be to minimize pain. My boss called after 3 months. "Megan, we need you back or we need to fill your position." I chose Brian. I chose love. My career, the one I'd built for 10 years, gone. But he was more important than any job. My friends stopped calling after a while. "You're never available," they said. "It's always about Brian." They were right. Everything was about Brian, his pain levels, his therapy schedule, his dietary restrictions because the pain medications caused stomach issues. I lost 15 pounds because I was too stressed to eat, too busy caring for him to care for myself. But 5 months without any physical intimacy, without even trying? Yes, he would occasionally take care of me, as he so clinically puts it, but there was no passion, no connection. It was mechanical, like another chore on his recovery checklist. I felt like a roommate, not a wife. "I miss you," I told him one night, curling up carefully beside him on the bed. "I'm right here," he said, not understanding. "No, I miss us, the way we used to be." "I have a broken neck, Megan. Sorry I can't fuck you right now." The cruelty in his voice was new, sharp. This wasn't my Brian. When I brought up the idea of an open relationship, it wasn't because I wanted to sleep around. It was a desperate attempt to save us. I'd read about couples who used it to navigate medical issues, to keep their relationships alive when one partner couldn't be physically present. I thought if I could get my needs met elsewhere temporarily, I could stay strong for him, be the supportive wife he needed. "Just until you're better," I explained. "Then we close it and go back to normal." His response was immediate and cruel. No discussion, no compromise, just an ultimatum. "If you need that, we should split up." After everything I'd done for him, after months of being his nurse, his maid, his mother, he was willing to throw our marriage away rather than let me have this one thing. He didn't even try to understand where I was coming from. He just decided our 5-year marriage meant less than his pride. So yes, I agreed to separate. What choice did I have? Stay in a sexless marriage indefinitely? Remain faithful to someone who saw me as a caretaker rather than a wife? I was 31 years old in my prime, wasting away in a marriage that had become a nursing job. The separation was harder than I expected. Brian moved in with his brother, dramatically, of course, making sure everyone knew I was the one who abandoned him in his time of need. Nobody asked about the months I'd already spent caring for him, the career opportunities I'd passed up, the life I'd put on hold. His brother Jake actually called me a heartless bitch when he came to get Brian's things. "He's injured and you're worried about getting laid?" he spat at me. I wanted to scream that it wasn't about sex. It was about connection, about feeling like a wife instead of a nurse. But what was the point? The narrative was set. I was the selfish wife who left her injured husband. My mother was worse. "Marriage is about sacrifice," she lectured. "Your father had prostate cancer and I stayed." But Dad's cancer didn't turn him into a cold, bitter stranger who flinched when she touched him. Dad still looked at Mom like she was his whole world. Brian looked at me like I was another medical professional he had to tolerate. I started seeing Tom from work. It wasn't planned. He was just there offering comfort when I needed it most. He made me feel desired again, wanted, like a woman instead of a nurse. Was it love? No, but it was something, and after months of nothing, something felt like everything. But Tom wasn't the answer. Neither was David after him, or Marcus. They were band-aids on a wound that wouldn't heal. Because the truth was, I missed Brian. Not the broken, bitter man who'd pushed me away, but the man I'd married. I kept hoping that once he healed physically, we could heal together emotionally. Then I met her, Charlotte. Charlie, at a charity event of all places. It was the Autumn Gala for Spinal Injury Research. Ironic, right? I'd bought the tickets months ago when Brian and I were supposed to attend together. Instead, I went alone, drinking too much champagne and pretending I wasn't dying inside. She approached me at the bar. "You're Megan, right? Brian's ex?" Not ex-wife. We weren't divorced yet, but I didn't correct her. She was exactly what I expected. Young, blonde, perky. The kind of girl who probably did yoga at sunrise and had an inspirational quote tattoo somewhere on her body. Everything bounced when she moved. Her ponytail, her breasts, her enthusiasm. "I'm Charlie," she said, extending a manicured hand. "I'm Brian's. Well, we're together now." The champagne made me bold. Or maybe it was the pain. "How nice for you both. Tell me, does he let you touch him, or does he flinch away like you're made of acid?" Her face changed, a flicker of something. Confusion? Recognition? "He's very affectionate, actually." Of course he was. With her. This child who didn't have to clean his bedpan or watch him struggle to swallow pills. This girl who got the recovered Brian, the one who could run 10Ks and make love without a schedule. She was everything I wasn't. Young, perky, athletic. A physical therapist who probably saw Brian as some kind of project, a wounded bird she could fix and claim credit for. When she got drunk and started asking about our sex life, I played along, curious about what she knew, what he'd told her. "Does he still do that thing with his tongue?" she giggled, 3 mojitos in. "Where he traces the alphabet?" I forced a laugh. "Oh yes, he's very thorough." Inside, I was screaming. He'd done that with me on our honeymoon. It was our thing, our private joke. Now this child was experiencing my life, my intimacy, my husband's tricks. The more she talked, the more I realized the truth. Brian was fine now. More than fine. He was running 10Ks, having breathtaking sex. Her words. Living his best life. The man who couldn't try for his wife had miraculously recovered for a woman 7 years younger. That's when it hit me. He could have tried. He could have fought for us. He chose not to. He used his injury as an excuse to end our marriage because he'd already checked out. Maybe he'd never really loved me at all. Meeting Charlie triggered something in me. Seeing her gush about my husband, because yes, he's still my husband until the divorce is final, made me realize what I'd lost. Not just Brian, but my entire future. The children we'd planned, the house we were going to buy, the life we'd mapped out together. I had to try one more time. When I asked to meet him, I wasn't planning to beg. I just wanted to talk, to understand how we'd gotten here. But seeing him, healthy, glowing, clearly happy, broke something inside me. The coffee shop was our old spot where we'd had our first date 8 years ago. He walked in, and I lost my breath. Gone was the pale, pain-racked man I'd nursed. This Brian was tan, muscled, moving with easy confidence. He'd even changed his hair, styled now, not the basic cut he'd worn our entire marriage. "You look good," I said. "Physical therapy," he replied curtly, not returning the compliment. I'd worn the green dress he used to love, done my makeup the way he preferred. He didn't even notice. "We made a mistake," I found myself saying. We were perfect together." His response was so cold, so calculated. He'd rehearsed it, I could tell. Every word designed to hurt me, to punish me for the choice he'd forced me to make. He actually said he loved me past tense. Who says that to someone they spent 5 years with? "You're happy with Charlie because she's new," I tried to explain. "But I know you, Brian. I know you hate when people squeeze the toothpaste from the middle. I know you need white noise to sleep. I know you're scared of becoming your father. She doesn't know these things." "She'll learn," he said simply. "The difference is she stayed when things got hard. I stayed for 5 months. And then you asked to fuck other men when I couldn't perform for you. The vulgarity, the accusation, the rewriting of history, it was all too much." I started crying, ugly sobs that made the other patrons stare. Brian just sat there, unmoved, checking his phone, probably texting her. Since then, yes, I've been persistent in trying to reach him. What he calls harassment, I call fighting for my marriage. The lawyers, the police, Charlie, they all act like I'm some kind of stalker. But how am I supposed to just walk away from 5 years? How am I supposed to accept that he replaced me with a younger model the moment he could? The first letter I wrote was calm, rational. I explained everything. My fears during his recovery, my loneliness, my desperate attempt to save us. I poured my heart onto paper, sure that if he just understood, he'd forgive me. No response. The second letter was angrier. How dare he move on so quickly? How dare he erase me from his life like I was nothing? Still nothing. By the 9th letter, yes, the 9-page one he mocked, I was unhinged. I detailed every moment of our life together. Our first kiss in the rain outside that terrible movie. The night he proposed with my grandmother's ring. The miscarriage we never told anyone about. The dreams we shared. The promises we made. I needed him to remember that we were real, that we mattered. Going to his apartment was a mistake. I know that now. But I'd had wine, and I missed him, and I thought if he just saw me, remembered what we had. The first time, I knocked politely. He answered, took one look at me, and closed the door in my face. The second time, I waited until I saw Charlie leave. He wouldn't even open the door, just shouted through it that he'd call the police. The third time, the fourth time. Each visit more desperate than the last. The different phones weren't manipulation, they were necessity. He kept blocking me, cutting off my only connection to the life I should be living. Each new number was hope that this time, this message, would be the one to break through his walls. The truth is, Brian orchestrated all of this. He used his injury to push me away, knowing I'd eventually break. He probably had Charlie lined up before we even separated. How else do you explain how quickly he recovered once I was gone? He wanted out but needed me to be the bad guy, so he created an impossible situation and waited for me to crack. And now he gets to play the victim. Poor Brian, whose mean wife left him when he was injured. Nobody mentions that I stayed for 5 months, that I begged him to work with me, that he's the one who issued ultimatums. He gets sympathy while I get restraining order threats. Charlie doesn't know what she's gotten herself into. She sees the recovered Brian, the runner, the passionate lover. She doesn't know the man who'll shut down the moment things get difficult, who'll push her away rather than show vulnerability. When she gets sick or injured or just older, he'll do the same thing to her. I'm not giving up because this isn't over. You don't just throw away a marriage because of a rough patch. You don't replace your wife with a younger version because she dared to have needs during your recovery. And you certainly don't get to rewrite history to make yourself the hero. He says I'm harassing them, but I'm just refusing to be erased. Every text, every call, every letter is a reminder that I exist, that our marriage existed, that he can't just pretend 5 years didn't happen because he found someone new to play with. The 9-page letter he mocked? It detailed every sacrifice I made during his recovery, every moment I chose him over myself. But he doesn't want to remember that. It's easier to paint me as crazy than admit he used me as a nurse until he didn't need me anymore. Mark, the boring guy I'm supposedly seeing, doesn't exist anymore. Neither does Tom or David. I can't move on because I'm still married, still fighting for the life that was stolen from me. Brian thinks he won by walking away, but he just proved what I always suspected. His love was conditional, limited to when I was useful to him. So yes, I'll keep calling, I'll keep writing. I'll keep reminding him of what we had until he remembers why he loved me in the first place. Because the alternative, accepting that I wasted 5 years on a man who could discard me so easily, is too painful to bear. He claims they have filthy sex every time I contact them. Good for them. Let them laugh at my pain, mock my attempts to save our marriage. But when Charlie realizes she's just a rebound, a trophy to prove he's moved on, she'll understand why I fought so hard. You don't give up on real love, even when the person you love has given up on themselves. My sister found his Reddit post. "You need to see this," she said, laptop in hand. There it was, our private pain displayed for strangers to judge. He'd turned me into a caricature, the crazy ex who couldn't let go. The comments were brutal. "Bitches be crazy. Dodged a bullet, bro. Never stick your dick in crazy." Each one a knife in my heart. He wrote about their sex life, their breathtakingly filthy sex that happens every time I try to reach out, as if my pain is foreplay for them, as if my attempts to save our marriage are some kind of aphrodisiac. It's sick, it's cruel, it's not the man I married. But I know the truth. This isn't Brian. This is someone wearing his face, living his life, but it's not him. My Brian would never be so cruel. My Brian understood that love means fighting through the hard times, not running to the first young thing who makes you feel good about yourself. Brian broke more than his neck in that accident. He broke us. But instead of trying to heal together, he found someone new to make him feel whole. That's not strength. That's cowardice. And someday, when the novelty wears off and reality sets in, he'll realize what he threw away. Charlie will get old. She'll get sick. She'll need him to care for her the way I cared for him. And when that happens, when she's no longer the perky 26-year-old who makes him feel young and virile, he'll do to her what he did to me. He'll find another excuse, another reason why she's not enough, another younger woman to prove he's still got it. Until then, I'll be here, fighting for the marriage everyone else has written off, because that's what you do when you really love someone. You don't give up just because they're too broken to love you back. Even if it means being called crazy, even if it means restraining orders and police visits and public humiliation. Love isn't convenient. Love isn't easy. Love is showing up even when they push you away. Love is believing in the person they used to be, could be again, If they just remembered what we had. Brian thinks he's won. He thinks he's free. But he's just running from the truth. That what we had was real. And what he has with her is just a bandage on a wound that will never heal without me. I'm not giving up. Not now, not ever, because that's what for better or worse means. Even if he's forgotten, even if everyone thinks I'm insane, I know who Brian really is, and I'll keep reminding him until he remembers too.